Welcome to Frostpunk 2. I have been really excited about this game as I've been watching the trailers and seeing the run-up to it. I love the original Frostpunk, though I probably didn't play as much of it as I should have. The problem was this game is just so dire and challenging, and it's so easy for every decision you make to feel like the wrong decision, that I was a little intimidated by it. I beat it, but I didn't really have the full experience, because I know that they made a bunch of updates and expansions to the game that I never even tried. So this is my first time back in the Frostpunk universe since the first game originally came out. But as I understand it, the second game is very, very different from the first one. You've taken a step up in sort of the scale of the community that you're building. The whole thing has just sort of a different theory to how it's put together, which is actually really, really neat. What they've done is they've kept the original fantasy of Frostpunk, which is trying to build a steampunk community within a world that is frozen to the degree of, say, Snowpiercer, where it's deadly just to go outside. But Frostpunk 2 is tackling that same fantasy in a different way from Frostpunk 1. They're not just rehashing the original game with some additional bells and whistles. They're reconsidering the entire fantasy from the ground up and solving it in a different way, which I think is really fascinating. As someone who is working on a sequel himself, you're constantly worried about building a game that will be, either too unfamiliar, because players will be like, I love the first game, why did you make this completely different thing? But also there's the risk of making it too the same, where players are like, well, I've already played this, why would I play it again? So it seems like Frostpunk is trying to thread that needle and make a game that is different enough that it basically presents an entirely new set of problems for me to solve, but it still gets at the same core fantasy that I'm going for as a player. So I've played through the first 2 chapters of it on my own, but I want to start over from scratch again with you to sort of learn the systems from the ground up. So I'm going to hit story, and we will start with the prologue and go with a new story, and we're going to play it at officer difficulty. So I've already played it at citizen difficulty because, again, I find this game very intimidating, and I didn't want to challenge myself too much. But now that I've learned what I can from citizen, I want to go into officer and have it be a little bit tougher on me, partly just because you should see the consequences of me making bad decisions, which I'm sure I will still do. I have programmer friends who say that they've solved Frostpunk and that they found it too easy. For me, I'm not in that zone. So we'll start with the opening cutscene, which I didn't understand the first time I watched it, but I think I get it a little bit better now.
Can you hear us?
Captain!
Do you hear us?
A generation ago, we fled the crumbling British Empire as the world froze around us. I held New London together. United, we survived 30 years of whiteouts. But the world around us is dead. Empty.
Ripe for taking. The city glows.
Vestas.
Merely surviving is not enough. We have to expand. After all, it's us who survived the end of the world. It's us who survived.
Yes. Now what?
So if I'm reading that right, that was the protagonist of the previous game, who held together this community out in this frozen wasteland as the world was ending. But the community has survived, and now he's gotten old, and basically the new factions that are arising think that he's outlived his usefulness, and they want power now. And so I think that they just assassinated him by exposing him to the cold. And so now it's a new world, and it's up to me to sort of, forge a new path for this growing community that's trying to not just survive a disaster, but figure out a new way to live in the new world. So we're going to start in not the actual city. This first prologue area is sort of a little outpost. It's based on an actual outpost that you do end up playing with in the main game. But this is just here to give you the raw basics of how the resource system works and how the survival systems work. So it looks like we've got this crashed train, or maybe some other kind of vehicle, not exactly sure. But what we're here to do is learn how the city building system works, learn how the resources work, and just get the basics. So what you see in the upper left corner is your current objectives in the story. And it wants us to frost break to an oil wagon to start getting fuel and then turn on the furnace. So frost breaking. What that means is this entire world here is just completely frozen. It's got solid ice, and you can't build or do anything here until you break the frost. So frost breaking is our first little tool down here. And what it shows us here, the dark gray is places that have already been frost broken. The white is new places that are ready to be broken. And the dark, sort of the hatched gray, is places you can't frost break yet because you can only frost break tiles next to tiles you've already frost broken, if that makes sense. So I start here, and as I choose tiles, the area that I can frost break expands. So what I need to do is I need to get access to oil so that I can run the furnace. So you can frost break in sort of collections of tiles that add up to 8. So I'm going to frost break all of this, and so I hit that button, and so now they're starting to frost break. So I'm going to hit high speed so that it just happens real fast. So now we've frost broken this section, which means we can build there. So now I open the build menu, you can see that I've got access to these tiles to build on them. So I'm going to build an extraction district. And so when you're building a district, that means you're placing multiple tiles down that, people will build buildings here and they'll perform some kind of operation. But for extraction tiles, you need to actually have, for extraction districts, you need to have actual tiles that provide resources. So we need to build on this oil, but then we choose what 2 additional tiles we're going to claim. And actually, I think I'm going to build outward this direction, because over here is where I'm going to build my housing, and want your housing separate from your industrial stuff. So I'm going to hit that, and I don't need to just build the one. I could build a second one, but I don't want to build too much until I've got access to prefabs. Prefabs is one of your resources. It's the one that's listed up here. This is what you build your buildings out of. And it is very easy to forget to get enough prefabs. And if you run out of them, it's hard to fix the problem because the stuff that you have to build to get more prefabs usually costs prefabs. You end up having to dismantle things in order to get enough. So I want to stay ahead of the prefab problem this time. I've run into this problem before, and it can get bad. So we'll grab those prefabs, but also, can I build all the way down here? I don't think I can. So I kind of have to build an additional 8 tiles in order to frost break this, but that's fine, whatever. So we'll frost break that. Let's speed up again, make this happen. Okay, so we've frost broken out to the construction wagon. So now let's build another extraction district to collect these prefabs. By the way, before we start watching this grow again, I just want to point out the fact that I could have chosen any 3 tiles around this, And no matter what, it just builds buildings on whatever tiles you choose. And so that gives kind of an organic feeling to the city. This building in this city almost feels like you're playing Townscaper, and that you're placing down tiles in whatever configuration you want. And the tiles are sort of have these uneven shapes to them, and then they will build buildings according to. I'm not actually sure how the rules work. It's not like they're just putting the same thing down in each tile. They're building a collection of buildings that feels fairly random, or at least procedurally generated, that fill out the tile space. And so you get the sense that, small changes that you make in your strategy that are fairly arbitrary blossom out into bigger changes in the art. And it's kind of fun to sort of make a couple of simple choices and then watch how those choices expand out into something kind of gorgeous. It's what I love about things like Townscaper or like Tiny Glade that just came out. It's that, I make very simple choices, but then those choices grow into something that I could never have made on my own. So we'll let it finish the extraction district, and we'll have a look at the event here. So these little story events, sometimes they're telling stories, sometimes they're informing you about how the game works, sometimes they're just giving you feedback for your choices. Here it's telling me that this fallen dreadnought has spilled a bunch of oil, and so we're going to be extracting that oil in order to bring the furnace back online. So let's come over here to the furnace. Now that we've got an income of oil, you're seeing that we're making 60 oil a day. We could just stockpile that oil for if we want to, but if we want this community to work, we have to turn on our generator. So our generator is going to take 20 fuel a day and output 40 heat. Oil is actually a particularly good fuel because it doubles like that. Later on, in later chapters, you get access to coal, which is a less efficient heating source. Okay, so this is now telling me that we need to get prefabs, but I've already started building prefabs because I know what I'm doing. But yeah, so you'll notice that right now we're actually making a profit on oil. We're extracting more oil than we're using. That's not going to last forever because basically everything I build needs heat, and as the heat demands go up, the generator automatically tries to meet them and it sucks more fuel. And so eventually we're going to have negative fuel. And that's true of a lot of these resources. Like on the left side over here are resources that I manually spend myself. And so here they show you the stockpile. They show you exactly how much of the resource you have. There can be an income. Like once we finish the prefab extractor, which I'll do right now, you can see that we are getting 20 income, 20 prefabs a week. But what doesn't show me the income in the HUD, it shows me how much I've got because I'm going to be spending this one action at a time, and I need to see how much we have. Over here, we've got resources like food, like materials, like oil that we're actually that we're getting a continuous income of, just like the prefabs. But we don't spend them continuously. I never take an action that says spend 300 oil or spend 40 food. Instead, these incomes are all invested in continuous usage. So you have a continuous income and it goes into a continuous use. And so instead of showing you the stockpile here, which you're rarely drawing from yourself, it shows you your income. So right now we get a negative income in everything. And what that means is we want to use more than we have. And because we don't have enough for our needs, we're suffering some kind of negative consequence because of it. Materials shortage means that our squalor is going up. Food means that we're suffering from some starvation. Housing means that our people are cold because they don't have homes to live in. And similarly, if our heating is down, that also contributes to cold. So we want to solve these problems. Right now, it's telling me I need to solve my shelter problem by building some housing districts. So we've got some space around the furnace here that was already frostbroken, so we can use that to build some housing. You'll notice that when you construct something, it usually costs some stuff. It costs 100 workforce in this case, 140 prefabs, and 60 scraps. So prefabs and scraps, I've got enough of those, and this is my workforce. So I've got 3,000 people living in this community. 1,650 of them are available to work. But I've got enough of all of that. And in the case of like a food district or an extraction district, the workforce who builds it also starts working there when it's done, so you never get them back unless you actually turn it off or dismantle it. Housing districts are different. You need workforce to build them, but then those people, when they're done with the job, they go back to your workforce and they can do something else. Same thing with frost breaking. So we're going to build a housing district. Now, housing districts liked being built next to the generator because it's easier to warm them that way. If I could build them out here if I want to, but then it's more expensive to heat them because you have to pump the heat farther away. So if I build them right up next to the generator, you can see that I build 3 tiles next to the generator. That unlocks this benefit, which is they get plus 20 heat, which means it's easier to heat them. So the other 3 don't need to be in the heat, so I'll do that. And then I'm going to frost break a little bit more around this area so that I got more room to build a second housing district when we're ready. So I will speed up so we can make that happen. And one thing I'm anticipating is that eventually we're going to need some food. So we got food down here. We've also got food, access to food and more fuel and other materials and things up here. I think I'm going to frost break out from this to grab access to food and materials. So that's about as far as I can get there. And I think I'll also frost break down to this food. Eventually, we're going to want all the food we can get. So let's get this going. All right. We've successfully built this housing district. Let's build another one. You can see up here, by the way, my housing used to be a much worse problem. Now we're only at -20. So I'll build another one, which will get us closer. And now another thing I need to worry about is this prefab extractor. It only contains about 320 prefabs, which means after 16 weeks we're going to run out. That's not going to be enough to exploit this whole territory. So I need to find more prefabs for the future. There's 500 over here, which is a nice deal. And now that we're done frost breaking over this, I think I'm going to do a little bit more frost breaking to try to get closer to these prefabs. Because again, the thing I don't want to do is run out of prefabs and not already have another way to get more of them. Okay, so now that we've built enough housing, actually, note, it's not actually enough housing. I'm still short 5. But we've gotten close enough that the decrement isn't too bad. We've got 5 people living on the streets. But they're telling us that we need food. So luckily, I've already been frost breaking out here towards the food. So I can claim this food right here. I can also claim this food down here. But that is costing me precious prefabs, so I need to make sure that I'm staying ahead of that need. We finished this frost break here, so let me build the rest of the way out to the prefabs. And then, actually, let's start building down towards this new fuel source down here. Okay, so now it's telling me I need to prepare for the whiteout. A whiteout is a huge storm that sort of, that sweeps through and it destroys a lot of your capability. It doesn't destroy, but it inhibits, let's say, a lot of your capabilities. Some of your sources of resources, some of your sources of like things like fuel become harder to access, and the demands on your furnace get really, really bad. And so you want to have a nice stockpile of food, you want to have a nice stockpile of fuel if you want to get through a whiteout. So in this case, they're showing me I've got 66 weeks to stockpile enough food to make it through. If I look at my food here, I'm only producing a surplus of 30, which isn't a lot, and also my stockpile only has a capacity for 10,000, so I can't even store as much food as I need. So we're going to have to solve those problems. Let's finish frost breaking out to the prefabs. So the first thing I want to do is let's get access to more prefabs so that I can build everything I need to build. Another thing that I want to do is frost break out to another food source down here. Notice that this food source has got 400k in it. A lot of these other ones are like 18k, and I think that the income rate from this particular food source is also higher. So let's grab this fuel source and this food source. Oops, hit the wrong button there. And if I can claim those guys, I think we'll be in pretty decent shape. Oh, check this out. This little icon means that this resource deposit is nearly depleted. So I'm about to run out of prefabs if I'm not careful. Let's just get that one going. Okay, so now we are making an income of prefabs again, and it's actually a better income from before, so that's good. Let's see what this event says. Okay, so we might not be able to fill our food stockpiles without exceptional measures. Consider asking the Wanderers to tighten their belts or instill emergency shifts in the food districts. So that's highlighting for me that we've got a couple of options that, that we can use to make our food situation better. Because we're trying to fill up our food coffers to 40,000. It's touch and go whether that's even going to be a thing we can do. But we do have options. For instance, the Wanderers here. This is... the only faction in our community. You can have multiple factions later on. For right now, they're our only faction. We can ask them to tighten their belts, and that means that hunger is significantly increased, but food demand is decreased. So I basically I end up taking a hit to everyone's morale and their sadness, but they're not technically eating as much, which means that we can stockpile more food for the whiteout. I'm hoping I don't have to do that, but it is an option. Another option is to kick in emergency shifts at my food producers. If I do that, they'll produce more food, which means we can fill our coffers faster. But people will be dying from industrial accidents all the time, and I think they'll be sadder, which will be bad. Another problem that we have to solve right now is material scarcity. Our squalor is getting pretty bad because we're not bringing in any materials. So that's something we'll need to worry about. For right now, what is our most immediate concern, though? I think grabbing this food source, which is really valuable, seems good. Also notice, now that we've built so much, it used to be that we were making a profit on oil. Now we've got a deficit. Now we're trying to run our generator at a higher capacity, and it can't do it because it doesn't have enough fuel. So I think I need to come down here, and we need to build an extraction district on this fuel, and we need to build another extraction district on... Oh, can we not build it on the food yet? Did I not make it to the food? Or, oh, maybe because this is a tutorial. Oh, wait, no, sorry. I hit extraction instead of food. Food district. That's what goes on food. That makes sense. Okay, I'm starting to run low on workers, so let's hope this goes okay. It looks like we got an event here. Yeah, so this is telling me about squalor. It's saying that basically my people are going to get sadder if they're living under terrible conditions, and so we need to gather materials. And this in particular, this is a faction in my community telling me that they want me to promise to gather more materials. This is important because promises, they appear over here on your objectives, and your sort of trust with these people, like your relations with them, this can get really low. And if it gets low, bad things can happen. You want it to be higher, and you can raise your relations with people by fulfilling promises to them. And so in this case, they want me to build an extraction district on a maintenance dealie so that we can get materials. So let's do that. Let's build that to this one and to that one. And we'll build an extraction district. Is one of these better than the other? They're both 150k. I don't know what the rate is going to be, but I think we only need to build one of them right now. Let's see if that's true. Okay, you'll notice that now that we have built this extraction thing on the fuel, I'm now making a profit on fuel again, so that's good. Over here, I've built this food district, which means we're actually getting a lot more food per day, which is awesome. In fact, we're starting to... we filled a quarter of our space right now. We've only have room for 10,000. So if I've got the prefabs for it, I think we might want to build a new stockpile hub. The stockpile hub does a couple of things. It Oh, wait, is it not letting me do it yet? There we go. Okay, yeah. So it does two things. One thing, it raises the amount that you can stockpile, which is important, but also whichever extraction district or food district you put a hub next to, it requires fewer workers, because basically the transportation of the goods is no longer as big of a deal because the stockpile is right there. So if you build that right there, that means that the workforce requirements go down. So that means you get more people available to do different jobs. It looks like we got an event over here. A mysterious symbol. So one of our Frostbreaking crew uncovered the frozen remains of a man in a tattered uniform. His shoulder patch reads, New London Scouts, 3rd Platoon, and he bears an obscure insignia. Some of our elders claim it belongs to a military organization, while others argue it has a religious significance. Maybe you've heard of this New London before and can settle their debate? So you basically decide what you think this symbol means, and I think that has some impact on the way your society develops. So I said I don't recognize this symbol. And so I think that what I did originally in my first playthrough was I chose this, and I think that they just maybe they chose randomly for me what outcome I was going to have. I did end up with a faith-based community in New London when I went there in Chapter 1. And so maybe that was randomly selected. So maybe if I choose order, I'll get something different. I'm genuinely not sure what to expect. So I'm going to choose order because I want to see if something different happens this time around. Okay, so now we've got enough materials. It's time to focus on food. And over here, look, this extraction thingy it's run dry. There's no more resource deposit. So we can demolish this district and get back some of our materials that we used to make it, some of our prefabs that we used to make it. So yeah, so we've got enough materials, so we're good there. We are a little short on shelter, though. So I'd rather have that be up where it belongs. So let's build another housing district. And where should I build it? Let's build it over here. So notice near generator, which these two tiles have, and near housing district, which these two tiles have, those are two different bonuses. And it looks like I actually get both of them from this tile, which is kind of neat. But I don't actually have enough tiles near the generator to get the full bonus. Like I would need to build here, and I can't because it's not frostbroken. So I want to see if I can max out the benefits of this new place. So I'm going to frost break here. And there's not much else for me to do, so I'm just going to frost break a random selection of tiles in that area. And accelerate this. Ooh, we got an event. What's this? Some people are ready to sacrifice themselves to lower the food required. I'd like to see if that's not necessary. I would like to not expose all of our elderly people like we saw in the opening cutscene. I'd like to see if we can feed everyone without doing that. Now, I'm only playing at officer difficulty, so it might be that I can do that at officer and I couldn't do it at higher difficulties. Not dead certain about that. So, let's see. So right now, if we look at our food, we've got 110 coming in a day, and our stockpile now has room for 25,000. It doesn't have room for 40,000 yet. So I think I might need to build another hub. And I'll build another hub next to one of our other food stockpile places. Right there. So again, reducing the workforce necessary for this and expanding the amount of space we have for food. So we got back some of the prefabs, and I think some of the scraps that we used to make that. So that's good. Let's slow down a little bit and check on our food now. So we're still making 110 a day. Our stockpile now has room for 40,000. That's good. And it says that our stockpiles are going to be ready in 37 weeks at the current rate, and we have 45 weeks until the whiteout. So basically in 45 weeks, a big storm is going to hit. In fact, you can see it now. The whiteout is appearing on our timeline. So right here, this is the present, and everything comes from the right and marches to the left. And so this whiteout is coming. But I think we're making just enough food, just fast enough, that we're going to beat it, which means we don't need to work our people extra hard. We don't need to expose our old people. We're actually doing pretty well. We're running out of prefabs over here. Luckily, I don't think we need that many more. I mean, I think we're basically exploiting almost all the things we can. We could actually make food a little faster. Oh, wait, it just got colder. And we've built so much stuff that we're demanding more heat. Between our expansion and the fact that it's getting colder, our heat problem is getting worse. Let me check my phone just a second. Okay. I've got some family stuff to deal with, so let me just figure out what our next thing is going to do, and then we'll take a little bit of a break. So I want to build one more extraction district, though. Oh, crap, I don't have quite enough room to do it. Okay, let's frost break this. Make a little bit more room around this potential extraction point. And then we'll build an extraction district here. This is going to cost 20 materials to run, which means our materials are going to get low again. So I think we might need to build one more extraction district over here. I mean, part of me wants to build another food district just to make sure, but I think our food is fine. I think we're going to make it. So yeah, I think I will build one more extraction district over here on these materials. So that those materials that come out of that will help pay for the oil that we're going to be getting over there. So, okay, I'm going to go deal with some family stuff. I'll be right back. That was just Milo being a weirdo. All right, what was I doing? It's been a while. I went and had dinner and everything, but it looks like we're getting closer to these people getting to have dinner. That's right. Okay, I think we've built everything we need. So we're going to fast forward time. Finish building our new fuel extraction. Oh, some people have frozen to death. That's not cool. We don't want that to happen. 30 people froze to death. So now, yeah, we have 2,970. Probably because we were so deeply in debt on the fuel side for a while. And unfortunately, now I think we've built every possible fuel extraction. Yeah, we got a couple of more food sources, but no more fuel sources. We can get rid of this now that we've got basically all the prefabs we can possibly get. So we need to not be reckless about what we build from here on out. What do these people want to say? So yes, this is reminding me that trust and relations fall every time people die. Luckily, not too much. I'm betting that as I raise the difficulty level, the amount that every misfortune costs me probably goes up. So, all right. So here's my problem. There are no other fuel sources, but I don't quite have enough to fill a generator. So I think this means I have to kick in this. This is emergency shifts. This is the thing they were recommending that I do to get enough food in time. It looks like I'm not going to need it. I'm going to get enough food in time regardless. But if I kick this in, I'll be making fuel faster, but the cost is going to be lives. Unfortunately, I can say I have lives to spare. So let's see. So this one is putting out 60. This one is putting out 60. Okay. Neither of them is better than the other. So I'm going to go emergency shifts with this. And now we're making just enough, just a little bit more than enough. What's going on here? The whiteout draws near. A sacrifice. Okay. So it's saying that basically if I had fallen behind and I was not going to be ready for the whiteout, they're giving me the option to slaughter the seals. And so basically that means that, that southern, is it southern? I don't know, down the chasm food source, the better food source that I grabbed, that was seals. I think that basically if I slaughter the seals, I'll rapidly get, I think I'll deplete that food source faster, but I'll rapidly get a bunch of food, which could help me if I was just falling behind the curve and, and I wasn't going to get enough in time, that could push me over by making more food. Or let our elders go, which is, people volunteering to go and expose themselves in the wilderness to die. And that means fewer mouths to feed, which means more food goes into storage. And so both of those are ways to raise my food income, but I don't think I need either of them. I think that we've planned ahead well enough that we're going to be fine. Yeah, we're going to hit our goal in 24 weeks. and the whiteout isn't for another 33. So I'm trying to think. So now we've got 193 workforce. I don't think that is enough for us to do anything new, is it? Yeah, we need 200 workforce to build another food district. Now we do have the option later on in the game to expand existing food districts and things like that, which costs less workforce, but they haven't unlocked that ability for me yet. So I think all we have to do really is just wait. I think we can wait this out. So notice that I got credit for ordering emergency shifts, even though I didn't do it the way they intended me to. They wanted me to order emergency shifts on a food source. Ooh, looks like we're running low on food over here. Hopefully that's not going to cause a problem. If one of these runs out, we're going to have to replace it real fast. I'm wondering if there's anywhere else we can do that. I mean, we are making a lot of materials. We could probably shut down one of our materials in 4 weeks. How much of this is left? 3 weeks of food here. 3 weeks of food here. So we're going at a rate right now where we'll get it in 4 weeks, but 2 of our sources are going to run out in 3 weeks. I think that this source is going to outlast it. This has got tons and tons of food, and it's collecting it at a fast rate. I think we're still going to be fine. However, if I were to panic right now, what I would probably do is shut down this extraction thing. And it looks like, okay, cool. It looks like we're still doing fine when it comes to materials. And we've been... Oh, they don't have a stockpile for materials for me right now. Normally you have one, but I guess they're just deciding not to worry about that right now. But we've got enough materials, and that freed up enough workforce that I actually can place an additional food district. So even though I don't think we'll need it, I'm still going to do it, just in case. So over the course of those 3 weeks, we'll build this new food source. Okay, yeah, you see that? We went up to 5 or 6 weeks. Once these 2 got depleted, we went up. So, okay, so now we can dismantle this and dismantle this. But we're going to be fine because we just kicked this one in. So now we're going to hit it in a week. There we go. Food secured. We will survive. Now we wait. So we're going to shut down these things that we don't need. And now that we've got more workforce, we can turn this back on, even though it's not really doing much. Whatever. And I think we're basically doing everything we possibly can. Shutting down these food producers is helpful because it's reducing the amount of heat that we need. In fact, we might be able to turn off the emergency shifts. Yeah, at least for now, we're doing fine without the emergency shifts. So we're just going to go with that. Let's keep waiting. 3 weeks. 2 weeks. You can see the days counting down. You can see the whiteout approaching. Here we go. The whiteout is here. The preparations are over. Look at this. The temperature got so bad that our generator needs way more fuel than we can possibly provide. They don't have me stockpiling fuel at this point. But it's okay. That's the end of the story. So, the end of the prologue, anyway. So we don't actually need to last through the whiteout. In the future, we will have to last through whiteouts. So, against all odds, the Wanderers' survival. When the whiteout hit the camp, the Wanderers were ready. Everyone was thankful we acted fast and gathered enough food in time. The miracle of the seal colony strengthened our hope that our journey would lead to a promised land. Our elders have added this story to our great tales, alongside the warnings about a sinful city that still pumps smoke into the sky. We survived. We survived the end of the world. Now what? So there's the beginning of chapter 1. And so chapter 1 is about how coal is running out and you need to find a new fuel source in order to run your furnace. And it just happens, in the prologue, we did discover a new fuel source, and that's kind of what we're going to be doing. But I think that for right now, we should probably wrap up this episode. One thing I'll be really curious about, so that prologue, it went exactly the same way in terms of just what, I mean, I made different choices, but it went exactly the same way in terms of what resources were available to me and what the sort of the lay of the land was. And so I'm getting the impression that this main campaign, that this storyline is the same every time you play it, which means that you can sort of use it to learn the ropes and iterate on it again and again and get really, really good at playing this particular story. I believe that they've got, there's an option on the main menu that looks like it's something about utopia building. I think that might be the more open-ended version of the game. I don't know yet. I want to complete the storyline first before I start exploring other aspects of the game. But there's the intro. So we will have to see. So I'm going to keep playing through the game on my own. But I'll probably come back at some point and do a chapter 1 episode and sort of and see how I can do, you know, now at the higher difficulty level, getting through this sequence. I did okay my first time through, but I was playing at the lowest difficulty level, so you never quite know if I actually learned all the lessons I was supposed to learn. But this game is really fun so far. I'm having a great time with it. I mean, it's got this combination of like interesting different strategy that I haven't really, you know, played in other games. This really sort of like bleak survival focus where everything that goes right you feel really good about it because there's so many things that can go wrong. And also just the visuals, it's just gorgeous watching this thing come together. I mean, the original Frostpunk had this sort of like, you know, light in the darkness sort of feel to it, and this even pushes that further. It's got this interesting color scheme, and just the look of everything is really gorgeous, and the way that they sort of like kind of procedurally piece together the city based on your rough choices with the tiles. It's a really, really satisfying thing to sort of to lay out your city and play. So I'm looking forward to seeing, you know, where else this game goes. And whenever I do make that future episode, I'll stick it there. And yeah, and I'll put something else there. So go click on those or whatever else is in those positions, and I will see you later.